Hello students. After peritoneum, we are going to start with the individual organs of the abdomen and topic of the day is spleen. Now before starting spleen, I would like to give you an introduction about the abdominal organs, like how they are present in our body. So with this diagram, now see in this diagram, this is the lower end of esophagus which continues as this is stomach. Then next to stomach is the small intestine. First part is the duodenum. Then these are the coils of jejunum and ileum. Next is the large intestine. This whole is the large intestine. The first part is cecum. Then ascending colon. Then transverse colon, descending colon. Further sigmoid colon, rectum and ends in anus. Now see, this is liver, largest gland in our body which secretes bile, right? And this is gallbladder. Now this small portion of our organ is seen over here. This is pancreas, which is basically present behind the stomach. And this is kidney. A small portion is visible over here. And this is the topic of the day, spleen. This organ, this is known as spleen, right? Now we are going to start with the spleen, starting with its introduction first of all. See, spleen, it is a lymphatic organ connected to the blood vascular system and it plays an important role in the filtration of blood as it removes old and damaged RBC and other blood cells as well as microorganisms also, right? Thus filters the blood and also it plays an important role in the immune responses of the body. This diagram is basically to tell you about the location of spleen. See, here it is located in our body, right? Next picture is the specimen of the spleen. This is how it looks like. After introduction is the shape and location of spleen. This spleen, it is a wedge-shaped organ. It is soft, highly vascular and dark purple in color and its location is, it is located in mainly in the left hypochondrium and partly in epigastrium. I hope you all know about the 9 regions of the abdomen by the time. See in the next, in this diagram. This diagram shows the location of the spleen, mainly in the left hypochondrium and partly in the epigastrium. And it is wedged in between the fundus of stomach and diaphragm. See in this diagram, this is stomach and this is left dome of diaphragm and in between both wedged is this one, this organ, this is known as spleen. And this is a part of the colon, descending colon and transverse colon, right? So this is about its shape and location. Next, coming to its dimensions, the size and weight of spleen, they are markedly variable. On an average, spleen is 1 inch thick, 3 inches broad, 5 inches long, 7 ounces in weight, and it is related to 9 to 11 ribs, right? So in this diagram again, it is related to 9 to 11 ribs, right? And to learn this, the odd numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and 11, right? Now the position or axis of spleen. The spleen lies obliquely along the long axis of 10th rib. Thus, it is directed downward, forward and laterally, making an angle of 45 degrees with the horizontal plane, right? This is about the axis of spleen. Next, starting with the external features of spleen. Spleen has 2 ends, anterior and posterior, 3 borders, superior, inferior and intermediate, 2 surfaces, visceral and diaphragmatic, 2 angles, anterobasal and posterobasal, and a hilum. This is about the external features and we are going to discuss all its features in detail one by one. Now starting with the two ends. See in this diagram, I'll explain you about the ends. First is the anterior end or lateral end. See this one. Now see this anterior end or lateral end, it is expanded and it is more like a border. It is directed downwards and forwards and reaches the mid-axillary line. Right? This is about the anterior extremity or anterior end, directed downward and forward. Next is the posterior end or medial end. It is rounded, directed upward, backward and medially, and it rests on the upper pole of the left kidney. So this is about the two ends of spleen, anterior and posterior end. Now the borders of spleen. First is the superior border, which is characteristically notched near the anterior end. And for this a very simple diagram I have taken to explain you all these borders. This is the upper or superior border, right? It is characteristically notched near the anterior end. You can see these notches, right? Second is the inferior border, which is rounded, this one. And third is the intermediate border, which is also rounded and facing medially, or you can say it is directed to the right. This is intermediate border. So this is about the three borders: superior, inferior and intermediate border. But see these notches, they basically indicate the fusion of the number of nodules developed during the embryological development of the spleen. Right? Basically this notching of the superior border, it is an evidence of its multiple origin. But there are a lot of variations with this. These notches, they can be either present on the inferior border also. Right? So we cannot hold the spleen on the basis of these notches. We have to look other features also. Right? Now coming to the surfaces. Now see surfaces, two surfaces are there. One is the diaphragmatic surface, that is convex and smooth, and another is the visceral surface, which is concave and irregular. Now see both the surfaces again. This is visceral surface, which is concave and irregular, right? And this is diaphragmatic surface, which is convex and smooth. And after surfaces is the hilum. See this hilum, it lies between superior and intermediate borders and it is pierced by branches and tributaries of splenic vessels. Right? See over here. This is superior border and this is intermediate border. In between both, here lies the hilum along the long axis of the spleen and it is pierced by branches and tributaries of splenic vessels. Right? So this is about the surfaces and hilum. Coming to the angles of spleen, two angles again, anterobasal angle and posterobasal. Starting with the anterobasal angle, it is formed by the junction of the superior border with the anterior end. Right? Over here. See this is the superior border and this is the anterior end. This is anterobasal angle. And this angle, it is the most forward projecting part of the spleen. Now when the spleen is enlarged, this is the angle which is felt first, so it is also known as clinical angle of spleen. Right? Now another angle is the posterobasal angle, which lies at the junction of this anterior end with the inferior border. Over here, this is posterobasal angle. Right? After external features, we'll be starting with the relations of spleen, and in this we'll be covering both peritoneal and visceral relations. Starting with the peritoneal relations, first of all, see the spleen is surrounded by peritoneum and it is suspended by very important two ligaments. The first one is gastrosplenic ligament and name itself indicates its meaning. Gastric word is for the stomach, splenic obviously spleen. So gastrosplenic ligament, it extends from the hilum of spleen to the greater curvature of stomach, right? And this is the diagram. Basically, it is showing the horizontal section through the supracolic compartment of abdomen, right? And over here, I'll explain you this one. See, this is spleen, this is stomach. Now see, this is gastrosplenic ligament extending from the hilum of spleen to the greater curvature of stomach. It is a double layer fold of the peritoneum, right? Now important are its contents. It contains short gastric vessels and associated lymphatics and sympathetic nerves, right? Next is the second important ligament is the lienorenal ligament. Now from where to where it extends? It extends from the hilum of spleen to the anterior surface of left kidney. Now again the same diagram over here, horizontal this section through the supracolic compartment of the abdomen showing the horizontal disposition of the peritoneum. Now see again, this is stomach, spleen, gastrosplenic we have already done. Now over here is the left kidney and this fold of peritoneum, this is the lienorenal ligament, right? This is lienorenal ligament from hilum of spleen to the anterior surface of left kidney. Now again its content, it contains the most important tail of pancreas, splenic vessels and associated pancreatico-splenic lymph nodes, lymphatics and sympathetic nerves, right? Third ligament, that is phrenicocholic ligament. See, this phrenicocholic ligament, it is not attached to the spleen, but definitely it supports its anterior end. It is a horizontal fold of the peritoneum. See over here, this is spleen, stomach, this is colon. So phrenicocholic, name indicates its meaning. Phrenic word is for the diaphragm, cholic is for the colon, right? So over here is the diaphragm and this is phrenicocholic ligament, right? From the colon over here and this is diaphragm and it supports its anterior end, but it is not attached to the spleen. You can easily see in this picture, right? It is a horizontal fold of peritoneum which extends from the splenic flexure of colon to the diaphragm opposite the 11th rib in the mid-axillary line, and it also limits the upper end of the left paracolic gutter, right? So this is about the peritoneal relations, 3 ligaments, 2 the most important, gastrosplenic and lienorenal ligament, and phrenicocholic is the third one which is indirectly related to the spleen. Next is the visceral relations. First we'll discuss the same on the visceral surface. See, the visceral surface of spleen, it is related to the fundus of stomach over in this area, then anterior surface of left kidney. See, this is the left kidney and its anterior surface and it is related to spleen over here. Then third, it is related to the splenic flexure of colon. Now see, this is the transverse colon. It continues as descending colon at this bend and this bend is known as splenic flexure of colon, right? And it is related to the spleen. And fourth, it is related to the tail of pancreas, right? So because of these surrounding viscera, the 4 impressions are made on the visceral surface of spleen. First is the gastric impression. As I told you in this part of spleen, here will be the gastric impression which is the largest and most concave impression, right? The second is the renal impression in this area. Then third is the colic impression near its anterior end. Here will be the colic impression. And fourth is the pancreatic impression for the tail of pancreas between hilum and colic impression. So this is about the visceral surface. We'll discuss it in detail on the next slide. Right? Now see in this picture, first is the gastric impression. You can see the largest impression on the visceral surface and the most concave. This is the gastric impression for the fundus of stomach. It lies between superior border and intermediate border. Right? So this is gastric impression. Then second is the renal impression. This renal impression is for the anterior surface of left kidney. It lies between the inferior border and intermediate border. This is the renal impression. Right? Then third is the colic impression. Colic impression is for the splenic flexure of colon and it occupies a triangular area adjoining the anterior end of spleen. Right? This is the anterior end and this triangular area is colic impression, right? And its lower end is related to the phrenicocholic ligament. Lower part of the colic impression is related to phrenicocholic ligament. Now last is the pancreatic impression, right? This one. Now this pancreatic impression, it is for the tail of the pancreas, lies between the hilum and colic impression. So this is about the 4 impressions, or we can say visceral relations on the visceral surface of spleen. Now next is the hilum, which is also present on the visceral surface. See, it lies on the inframedial part of the gastric impression along the long axis of spleen, right? And it transmits the splenic vessels and nerves and provide attachment to the gastrosplenic ligament and lienorenal ligament, right? 2 most important peritoneal ligaments we have already discussed. So this is about the hilum, right? Next, coming to diaphragmatic surface, visceral relations. See, the diaphragmatic surface is related to diaphragm. I'll show you in this picture first. This is over here is the diaphragmatic surface. It is related to diaphragm, which separates the spleen from the left costodiaphragmatic recess, left lung, and 9th, 10th, and 11th ribs of the left side. So this is about the diaphragmatic surface of spleen, right? So we are done with the visceral relations now. Now we'll have a quick revision of all the things what we have done. We are done with the introduction part, dimensions, axis of spleen, external features. Now see over here, coming back again to the external features, anterior end, posterior end, border, superior border, intermediate border, inferior border, right? Surfaces, this is visceral surface and this is diaphragmatic surface, which is convex and smooth, right? Then next is the hilum. You can see the splenic vessels over here. Then relations, I have already told you, peritoneal, done. Then next is the visceral relation. This is gastric impression, colic impression. This is over here is the renal impression, and here will be the pancreatic impression, right? And this is spleen in situ. You can see the cut end of the stomach and see how it is related to the surrounding viscera. Stomach over here, right, which has already been cut, and this is anterior surface of left kidney, this is tail of pancreas, and this is splenic flexure of colon, and this is diaphragm, and this is about this is ribs, right, 9th, 10th and 11th, right. So again, it will give you a better understanding about the spleen and its relations, mainly visceral in this picture, right. Next, we'll discuss about the blood supply of spleen. First is the arterial supply. This spleen is supplied by splenic artery, which is the largest branch of celiac trunk, right? The artery is tortuous in its course to allow for the movements of spleen. Now see in this diagram, this cut end, this is splenic artery. It is tortuous in its course. It passes through lienorenal ligament to reach the hilum of spleen, where it divides into 5 or more branches and these branches enter the spleen to supply it, right? We have already discussed about the lienorenal ligament, peritoneal relation, right? And its content splenic artery and splenic vein, right? Splenic artery, you can see it is tortuous over here. Now within spleen, it divides repeatedly to form successfully the straight vessels called pencilli, which further divide into ellipsoids and arterial capillaries. Now after this arterial capillaries, further course of the blood is controversial. There are two theories after that. First is the closed theory, right? According to that closed theory of splenic circulation, the capillaries are continuous with the venous sinusoids that lie in the red pulp, and the sinusoids join together to form veins. Another theory is the open theory. According to open theory of splenic circulation, the capillaries end by opening into the red pulp from where the blood enters the sinusoids through their walls, right? And still others also believe in a compromise theory where the circulation is open in distended spleen and closed in the contracted spleen, right? Now on the basis of its blood supply, spleen is said to have two vascular segments, superior and inferior, and these segments, they are separated by an avascular plane, right? Each segment may be subdivided into 1 to 2 disc-like middle segments and a cap-like pole segment, right? Now coming to its branches. Apart from its terminal branches, splenic artery gives off numerous branches to the pancreas, 5 to 7 short gastric branches, and left gastroepiploic artery, right? Now we'll have another picture to understand this thing. See over here, this is the liver which is reflected upwards. Now see, this is spleen. This is the cut end of stomach, right? Pancreas over here. Now see, this is abdominal aorta, and from here celiac trunk arises, right? And celiac trunk, this is splenic artery coming from celiac trunk, which is the largest branch of the celiac trunk. And it is its course over here, it is tortuous in its course. Then through this lienorenal ligament, it reaches over to the hilum of the spleen, and it divides into the branches. You can see it is dividing into 5 or more branches which enter the spleen to supply it, right? So this is about the splenic artery. Next, coming to the venous drainage. It is drained by splenic vein. The splenic vein is formed at the hilum of spleen, and it runs a straight course behind the pancreas. It joins the, see, I'll show you in this diagram first. See over here, splenic vein is formed at the hilum of spleen. It runs a straight course behind pancreas. That's why it is drawn here with the interrupted lines. Straight course behind the pancreas. Now the most important thing you have to understand over here, this splenic vein, it joins superior mesenteric vein coming from here to form the this joining, this fusion occurs behind the neck of the pancreas, and it ultimately forms very important portal vein, right? Portal vein. Now the tributaries of the the tributaries of the splenic vein are short gastric veins. See the tributaries, short gastric veins, left gastroepiploic vein, pancreatic veins, and this is inferior mesenteric veins. They are all are the tributaries of splenic vein. This is about the blood supply, including arterial supply and venous drainage of spleen. Next is the lymphatic drainage. Splenic tissue proper has no lymphatics. Now, but a few lymphatics arise from the connective tissue of capsule, including trabeculae, and drain into the pancreatico-splenic lymph nodes, which is situated along the splenic artery. Then is the nerve supply. Sympathetic fibers are derived from the celiac plexus. They are vasomotor in nature and they also supply some smooth muscles present in the capsule. Right? Then is the functions of the spleen. First is phagocytosis. See, the spleen, it is an important component of reticular endothelial system, and the splenic phagocytes include the reticular cells and free macrophages of red pulp, modified reticular cells of ellipsoids, free macrophages and endothelial cells of venous sinusoids, and surface reticular cells of the lymphatic follicles. Right? The phagocytes present in the organ remove all the cell debris and old and damaged RBC, other blood cells and microorganisms, and this is how it filters the blood. Right? I've already told you in my first slide only how it filters the blood. Then second function is the hemopoiesis. The spleen is an important hemopoietic organ during fetal life, and this in the adult spleen, hemopoiesis can restart in certain diseases like chronic myeloid leukemia, right? So this is about the hemopoiesis. Then third function is the immune responses. Now see, under antigenic stimulation, there occurs increased lymphopoiesis for cellular responses and increased formation of plasma cells for the humoral responses. And fourth is the storage of RBC. RBCs can be stored in the spleen and released into the circulation whenever needed, right? This function, it is better marked in animals than in man. So this is about the functions of spleen. I'll enumerate all these again. Phagocytosis, hemopoiesis, immune responses में इसका function and the storage of RBC. Next is the accessory spleen or spleneculi. Now what is it? See, the embryological development of spleen occurs during 6th week of intrauterine life, and it develops in the cephalic part of the dorsal mesogastrium. Now, number of nodules develop which soon fuse to form a lobulated spleen, and notching is its an evidence. The notches which we have seen on the superior border, characteristically it is present on the superior border. Now, see, when these nodules they fail to fuse, they form accessory spleen or spleneculi, right? When during embryological development, nodules which fuse to form lobulated spleen, they fail to fuse, they form accessory spleen, and this is how it look like, right? This is a spleen and this is accessory spleen, right? There are different sites where these accessory spleens they are present. Right? Usual sites of spleen, accessory spleen are first in the derivatives of dorsal mesogastrium, that is gastrosplenic ligament, lienorenal ligament, gastrophrenic ligament and greater omentum. Then second, it can be present in the broad ligament of uterus. Then third, it can be present in the spermatic cord. They are the, we can say, the usual sites of the accessory spleen, and they can also be present at the hilum of the spleen, right? Now, next is the applied anatomy, clinical aspect. So first is the palpation of spleen. See, a normal spleen, it is not palpable. It is only palpable when it is enlarged, that to twice of its size, right? An enlarged spleen can be felt under the left costal margin during inspiration, and this palpation is assisted by turning the patient to his right side, right? And the enlargement of spleen is known as splenomegaly, right? And this is over here, I'll tell you, this is the normal spleen, and this is when it enlarges, right, almost twice of its size, and then it becomes palpable, right? Sometimes the spleen becomes very large. It then projects towards the right iliac fossa in the direction of axis of 10th rib, right? And the notches of enlarged spleen, they are easily palpable. So this is splenomegaly. After splenomegaly, next is splenic infection. Now, splenic infection, it is a condition in which blood flow supply to the spleen is compromised, leading to partial or complete infection. I hope everybody knows about infection. It is tissue death due to oxygen shortage in the organ, right? So, this splenic infection, see the smaller branches of splenic artery, they are the end arteries, and their obstruction therefore results in splenic infection, right? And this infection, it causes referred pain in the left shoulder, and that is known as Kehr's sign. Kehr's sign, it is basically the occurrence of acute pain in the tip of shoulder due to the irritants in the peritoneal cavity when a person is lying down, right? And Kehr's sign specifically in the left shoulder, it is considered a classic symptom of the ruptured spleen, right? Now see in this diagram, this is spleen and this is injury over here, subcapsular splenic hematoma, and it causes referred pain at the tip of the left shoulder, and it is known as Kehr's sign, right? Another clinical aspect is splenectomy. Now what is splenectomy? It is the surgical removal of the spleen, but during this operation we have to take care of the tail of pancreas. Damage to the tail of pancreas has to be carefully avoided, as the tail of pancreas, it is very rich in islet of Langerhans. See, the spleen has two pedicles, gastrosplenic ligament over here and lienorenal ligament. Their contents are separated carefully before the ligaments are cut, and tail of pancreas is one of the content of lienorenal ligament, right? Fourth is the partial splenectomy. Since there are segmental branches of splenic artery, only one segment can be removed according to the state of spleen, right? Then is the splenic puncture. Spleen can be punctured through 9th or 10th intercostal space in mid-axillary line using a lumbar puncture needle, and when enlarged it can be punctured through mid-axillary line, right? To avoid laceration of spleen, the patient must hold his breath during the procedure. And last is the referred pain. See, the pain of splenic tissue, it is poorly localized. It is also referred to the epigastrium. Stretch of the splenic capsule produces localized pain in the posterior part of left upper quadrant, that is hypochondrium, right? This is about the clinical aspect of spleen. So this is all about spleen. Started from the introduction, then dimensions, then axis of spleen, external features, relations both visceral and peritoneal, then blood supply and clinical aspect. I hope you all people have understood. You can ask your queries anytime. Thank you.